Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to the Original Strength BodCast. This week we have a very special guest, real life superhero and real life friend, Mr. David Whitley, also known as the Iron Tamer. David, thanks for coming, man.
Thanks for having me on, Tim. It's very exciting. Always enjoy talking to you. Always leave conversations with you, either scratching my head about how to figure something out that you said, or something that I hadn't, some twist on something I hadn't thought of that I can apply to my own life. So I'm excited about this. I'm going to be smarter when we finish.
Well, I hope I don't disappoint you, but really, I don't know how many smart things I'm going to say today because I want to ask you a lot of questions. First off, though, guys, if you don't know, David Whitley is the Iron Tamer. He is a performing strongman, a motivational coach and speaker, and all around just really good guy. I first met David, I don't know, it's probably been back in 2010, 2009, somewhere in there.
Somewhere right in
Um,
there, yeah.
and I met you in the kettlebell world
Hmm.
at the time. And I did not even know you were a strongman. I got into this move called the bent press,
Hmm.
and I started Googling the bent press as to learn how to do it because it was kind of complicated for me, and that's where I first saw you performing that move. So, by the way, what is the bent press? Because I think that's a perfect old time strongman move, right?
Yeah, I love the bent press. It is a fantastic lift. There's an old strongman named Sig Klein who referred to it as the king of lifts back in the early 1900s. Most modern fitness people will tell you that the squat or the deadlift is the king of lifts now, and I can see an argument for either side of it because back in those days, they didn't have squat racks very often to speak of, so they would have to find a different way to get the bar on their shoulders, that kind of stuff. But the bent press is the way that it allows you to put more weight overhead with one hand than any other method once you've learned how to do it. It is a slower moving exercise that requires good mobility and good stability in all of your joints, good body awareness, good understanding of where you are in relation to the ground and to the weight, and it um, for the longest time I was completely enamored of the get up, and I still think the get up is a good thing, but after a deep dive into some bent press stuff and how it related to the get up, I decided that the bent press finishes what the get up starts for most people. So
Wow.
all the benefit of the get up plus more stuff.
Yeah, I like to get up, but when I saw pictures of the bent press, there was always these old photographs of
Mhm.
really strong looking guys, but it was like a real strong look. They didn't look like bodybuilders, but they looked
Right.
like they were formidable. They
Yeah.
just look raw is a good word to explain it. And I was just drawn to it because the pictures they all look classic, and it just the movement itself just looked very cool.
Yeah, and I we didn't talk about this before we started recording, but I did through my research and gathering information from dozens and dozens of different sources to figure out how to do the bent press effectively. Because I when I first learned it, it was at my RKC certification. It was part of the level one curriculum in 2003,
Oh wow.
and it came very easily and very naturally to me on my right side, but on my left side, it was much more like what I've come to find out most people experience. It was just kind of awkward, and I've thrown out the term monkey humping a doorknob before, in comparison, right arm to left arm. So what I wound up doing was analyzing my right side, reverse engineering what I was doing, and then teaching it to my left side. And they don't look identical now, but they're quite similar. And so, through all of this research that I did, reading the writings of these old time strongmen like Sig Klein, Arthur Saxon, Alan Calvert, Thomas Inch, all these guys who were very versed in the lift because it used to be a contested lift before Olympic weightlifting became a thing. Um, they would do all around lifting meets. And as far as I know, the only organization that still contests the bent press is the IAWA, which is the International All Around Weightlifting Association, and its American representatives, I guess, for lack of a better word, the USAWA. They still contest the bench press, but they have about 200 different lifts that they use in their contests. So all that to say, I compiled all this information and wrote a book about it, and it was a book that I wish that I would have had when I was learning how to, when I was figuring out how to do it. And then I recorded a companion video to it that I was selling for several years on a website called Selfie. And then I realized, I've only made monetarily, it doesn't make sense for me to continue to sell this because I wasn't really bringing in much money with it, but I wanted to get that message out to people. So actually, about a month or two ago, I just went ahead and created a dedicated website called tamingthebentpress.com. And if you go there, put your name and email address in it, it'll take you to a page where that 75-ish minute long instructional video that I recorded and used to sell is just available for free there. You don't have to, there's no other cost involved other than putting your name and email address in there. It'll take you to it, and you can watch that. It's everything that I knew at the time to teach people in a broad sense. 'Cause, I mean, obviously there's other stuff that would be a case by case basis, but I put that video up for free for anyone that wants it at tamingthebentpress.com.
Well, that's I did not know that, so that's good to know.
I haven't really promoted it much. I did it. I think I made it live between Thanksgiving and the beginning of December, and then the holidays hit, and here we are. 8 weeks later.
So you are, I mean, I look at you as the bench press expert. So guys, if you want to see a really cool movement or a sexy move that real old time strongman used to do, check out that link that Dave was talking about. And he can teach you how to do a bench press, and it does look cool.
Thank you.
But let's shift gears just a little bit. So
before we
yeah,
do
yeah,
for your audience, you and I have had extensive conversations about the bench press before and about how it has resets built into it.
it does
And
actually.
so that's one of the cool things about it. So yeah, tamingthebentpress.com, go check it out.
Oh, well, if we want to get into the reset aspect of it, well, let me just tell you, it crosses midline, it activates the vestibular system. It is just full of reflexive strength, but it is a very, very good movement.
And
And
the video will take you from not knowing even what a bench press is all the way up through doing the bench press with kettlebell, barbell, and dumbbell, and doing the two hands anyhow, which is kind of the next step after learning the bench press. And the most challenging thing for most people learning how to do it is feeling safe in this twisted up, bent over position with the weight over your head. So I've got some progressions or regressions, depending on how you want to look at it, that will allow you to be in a more stable, safe position and experiment with other parts of your body being in the necessary positions to achieve the bench press. So it's comprehensive.
so, safety is important. After I first learned about the bench press, I decided to do it with a barbell
Mhm.
in my garage beside my car, and the barbell twisted in my hand and put me
Uh-huh.
in an arm bar. And I
Uh-huh.
was completely stuck in an arm bar right beside my car, trying to think I either drop this on my head or I drop this on my Honda.
Mhm.
And somehow I jumped out of the way and it did not hit the Honda. But for about 30 seconds, I was in a predicament.
Yeah.
So learn the right way to do. All right, so you mentioned you learned that researching old time strongman and things like that. But you are actually what I would call a new time strongman because you're not living in the past.
Mhm.
So how long have you been a performing strongman?
First got interested in feats of strength. It like got brought into my awareness probably in 2006 or 2007. I used to have a website that in the days before podcasts, I would have phone conversations like we're having now, and I would burn that onto a CD and mail it out to people. And I interviewed Bud Jeffries that way back then, and I would interview various people who were stronger than me um, under the guise of creating this product. But really, what I was doing was learning what they knew so that I could make myself stronger. And I would always ask people, "Do you know anyone that would be a good guest for the show?" And Bud said, "You got to get Dennis Rogers on the show." Or on so it wasn't a show, but like you got to do a month with Dennis Rogers. And I said, okay. And I got in touch with Dennis Rogers. If you don't know who Dennis Rogers is, he is a performing strongman, probably has been seen by more people than all other performing strongmen through history combined, thanks to having been on multiple television shows in multiple countries. And he was on Oprah, Jimmy Kimmel, that the best damn sports show ever, whatever that show was called. So he's done a lot of TV and stuff. And so when I connected with him, he said, "I'm going to send you some DVDs of some stuff that I do so that you're better prepared." And so he sends me videos of him performing and also teaching things. And like one of the first things was him bending a wrench. And I was strong and I like understood what strength was, but I had to rewind and watch, and I'm like, I'm not really registering how impressive that is, because back then he was the only one that I knew of that was bending wrenches. I'm like, okay. So he says, "Hey, do you want to learn how to do this?" And I'm like, sure. And so here we are 12, 13 years later. And I don't know when this is going to air, but we're recording it on the 10th of January, I think. And on the 25th and 26th in Austin, Texas, Dennis and I are co-teaching a workshop called Old Time Strongman University, which is where we teach people how to do feats of strength. So I got interest in and how to put together a show and actually become a performing strength performer. If you want to do that, you can just come for the feats if you want to, but we'll teach you everything that it takes to get in front of people and deliver a message and use the feats to support that. Another plug. It's going to turn into Plug Fest. OldTimeStrongmanUniversity.com. There's free stuff there. There's information about the workshop. So I got involved in it through Dennis back then, and fell in love with it. And in about 2013, I think it was, I said, you know what? I want to turn this into my full-time thing. And so I started looking at how keynote speakers build a business to get in front of crowds and to earn money that way. And so it's turned into a thing now that is my main gig, is speaking and performing now.
So, what are some of the, just for our listeners, just to kind of wrap their head around, what are
Mhm.
some of the really cool feats of strength that you have done?
That I have done myself.
Yes.
Kind of standard feats are bending a 60 penny nail. Let me see if I got one laying up here somewhere. I usually have one nearby. Yeah, so it's a 60 penny nail. It is 6 inches long, quarter-inch in diameter, and it takes about 250 or 300 pounds of pressure to bend that. So bending nails, spikes, that kind of stuff, twisting open horseshoes, ripping decks of cards, and not only ripping them in half, but like ripping them into halves, ripping them into quarters, ripping notches out of them, ripping them into strips, various different things like that. Behind the back, with oven mitts, fun stuff like that. Um, Here's another pitch, another plug. How to rip a deck of cards.com. I've got a course on that there. I don't mean to turn this into pitch fest, but it's relevant to the conversation. So ripping cards, twisting open horseshoes, leverage lifting sledgehammers. The bent press is one that I use frequently. Typically, I'll do that with a human being. I'll put a belt around their waist and get them to hold it in a particular way that's safe, and then bent press them from there. What else? Driving a nail through a board without a hammer.
How do you do that?
Drive the nail.
Yeah, without a hammer.
Well, you have the board on the stands, or you have someone that I'll often do it. Have someone sit down and we'll set the board in their lap across their knees, because it's a great crowd reaction and it's terrifying.
Yeah.
But it's completely safe. And then I have a rag, like a washcloth, that has been made into a pad to protect my hand. It's got a tiny little piece of leather in it because, and that's something that Dennis Rogers and Slim the Hammerman, his mentor, urged me to do, because at one point Dennis actually didn't have that safety thing in place on his rag and wound up putting the head of the nail into his hand.
Wow.
So we want to avoid that. That's counterproductive training, right? So you have that pad in your hand and you have a board in front of you. You just have to 100% commit to it and hit it with as much speed and force as you possibly can. So you have to be relaxed to a certain degree, much like sprinting. If you're tense when you try to sprint, you're not going to be able to go as fast. But speed is paramount for it, and so you just whack it,
Just
and then
what?
and hopefully the nail goes through the board. And a whole lot of times it won't, but the time will come when it does, and you will literally feel like you can just crush the world at that point.
All right. Very cool. So what's the hardest thing challenge for you that you had to learn, or feat that you were able to master?
Um, Learning and being able to perform the nail drive was a process for me, because the first time that I consciously remember seeing it happen was of that video of Dennis putting the nail in his hand. And so when I would go to practice it, I could feel myself putting the brakes on, because there's an image of him with his nail sticking out, because he caught that, but he also um, took the cameraman with him to the emergency room for the extraction. And so I got to see the whole thing start to finish. And I'm like, yeah, that's it exactly. Whoa. My wife says it gives you the heebs. Yeah, definitely gives me the heebie-jeebies on that one. So I could feel myself slowing down subconsciously, even though consciously I knew I was safe. Subconsciously, my mind was like, "Hey, the guy that taught you how to do this messed up once, and that was enough." I mean, he recovered fine and still does the feat to this day. But it was a the mess up was an issue of getting too complacent with things and missing some boxes on the checklist for safety. So it took me a long time, several months, to be able to do that feat. And it actually took me going and training in person with him and having him coach me through it and get me in a particular state of mind to be able to do that. It's not a very physically demanding or hard to do feat, but from the subconscious mind standpoint, it took me a while to get there on that one. Physically, the most demanding feat that I've done, as far as just like classic feats of strength, is bending what there's a strongman named Eric Vining, that he's not very public, but he's very well respected. Um, he dubbed this particular bar Goliath. It's 4 feet long, inch and a half thick, and inch and a half wide, half-inch thick steel. And I've bent that piece twice in my life, but it's something that I had to train up to, and it took several minutes to do it. And then after I did it, I'm like, "Phew, I'm gonna go watch Netflix or something now," because it was just
Wait, wait,
a lot.
wait, wait. That bar was called Goliath,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
your
yeah,
name is David?
yeah.
Okay, I'm just making sure I'm tracking
It's
with you.
there. It's there. Don't think that was lost on me. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, and
Um,
I actually the first time that bent it successfully, I just happened to have the camera rolling, and I caught it on video. It's on YouTube. It takes about 5 minutes. It's not very entertaining to watch. It's a guy who's trying to figure out how to do something in the midst of stuff, and so. But if you want to see it, it's on YouTube.
so you said some things I really want to come back to,
Okay.
but one of the reasons I really resonate with you, because I'm a big superhero fan,
Hmm.
and you and I often speak the same language.
Hmm.
At least I hear a lot
Yeah.
of, like, I
Oh,
just
it's there.
when you talk, man, I'm always like learning things and absorbing things, and there's something in me though that always just wants to kind of jump when you talk and say things.
The
I
feeling's mutual, my friend.
and I did get to see you perform one time, and I was just resonating so strongly with you. And I think that was the time. It was at a Strength Matters event,
Hmm.
and I think you had just written a book called Superhuman You.
Hmm.
And I bought that book. Of course I had to, because it was all about being superhuman. So, but I love your approach to what the human body can do, and how strong. Like, there are no limits to what we can do. And you just said though, when you were trying to learn how to bend that nail, how your subconscious mind, or not bend the nail, but
Right
drive
now,
the nail
yeah.
through the board, how your subconscious mind was kind of jacking with you a bit. How important is it, or how much does it matter, um, to be able to do anything or to take the limits off your body if your subconscious mind is tripping you up? Or how do you even know if your subconscious mind is tripping you up? Can you take anything I just said there and run with that?
Yeah, I can run with it. At least a couple hundred feet. So, what is the role of the subconscious mind in being able to execute feats of strength? Subconscious mind is where our self image lives. Okay. So, if to quote the mighty Adam, who was a legendary strongman who did things that no one will ever duplicate, If you place no limit on yourself, then you won't have any. Actually, the exact quote is, place no limits upon yourself and you will have none. Think that you are strong, and you are. And his protege, Slim the Hammerman, told me face to face, it's not that you don't have the power, it's that you can't access the power because of the fear. Power's already there inside you. Question is, can you bring it out? And then, of course, Dennis Rogers taught me very early on, says you must remove doubt and limitation from your mind because your mind controls your body. So I'm like, they're all saying the same thing in a slightly different way. And I took it to heart, and I started studying what I just personally refer to as mind masters. So I found a quote in a book from a guy that I consider to be one of the great masters of application of mind. And when I say studying the mind masters, it's like, how does my mind work? What role does it play, not just in physical expression, but also in every other aspect of my life? Because that's what, it's the mind controls everything. If the mind controls the body, and we look at the body as something that doesn't end where our flesh ends, it extends into our entire existence, our physical 3D reality that we live in. You could say that entire thing is the body in the context that I'm using it right now. And so if the mind controls the body and we become what we think about, I want to learn from people who can explain to me in a very practical, tactical, hands-on, usable, take this and do something with it right now kind of way. Much like original strength works, right? It's like, this is jacked up. Okay, do this reset. Now it's not jacked up anymore, right? Or it works better, even if it is still jacked up. It's trending towards better. So like, how can I do that with my mind? So I started studying various different mind masters, and it wound up taking me back again to the same era as this golden era of strongmen. Like, a lot of really cool stuff was written from about 1890 into the 1950s. And the quote that I'm talking about is, whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. And that's from Napoleon Hill, and it's in Think and Grow Rich. And he was talking about it in context of creating wealth for yourself. But I'm like, he didn't say, if you believe that you can be wealthy, or if you believe that you can be strong, then you can achieve it. It said, whatever, which to me means anything that we can conceive, that we can think of, and believe that it can come to pass. Not, and I don't mean hope, I don't mean wish, and I don't even mean faith. I don't mean having faith in it. I mean believing in it with the same certainty that tomorrow morning sometime the sun's coming up. And this afternoon, this evening, sometime the sun's going down. There's no question that that's going to happen. None. So it goes beyond even saying I have faith in it or that I believe in it. It goes into knowing. And so I kind of adapted that myself. That, to me, the way Hill is using the word believe in that context is like, you know it. You know that sometime later today you're going to have to go to the bathroom. It's going to happen. You may not know when, but it's going to happen with certainty. There's no question about it. And when you can take that level of certainty and apply it to a feat of strength, or doing something to reclaim some aspect of your health, or to your finances, or to your relationships with other people, and that's the seed that I've planted. Like, you don't plant seeds for corn and then wonder if wheat's going to come up. It's going to be corn. The question is, when is it going to come up? And you tend to that garden that way. And I treat the subconscious mind, and I didn't come up with this concept. I got it. I think this comes from James Allen, As Men Thinketh, that the subconscious mind is like a garden, and something's going to grow in it, and results are going to be produced. And you can either just let whatever the wind blows blow into your garden and grow weeds, or you can plant things that you want to grow, and you can tend to it, and you can pull the weeds out, and you can nurture whatever you planted until it grows into a beautiful flower, or an apple tree, or whatever. Sorry, I almost knocked my stuff down there. So something's getting planted there all the time. And the conscious part of our mind can be at odds with the subconscious part of our mind, and the subconscious will always win. I'm going to say that again because it's that important. The conscious part of our mind can want one thing. The subconscious part of our mind is programmed to do something else, and they're at odds with each other. Subconscious always wins because it works just like a thermostat on the wall. If we have a thermostat set for 70 degrees and it's 20 degrees outside, and we open all the windows in the house, the thermostat has one job: to bring the room temperature up to 70. And it will either bring the room temperature up to 70 or it will burn out trying while we have the windows open. So if our conscious mind says, I want the windows open, but I want it to be warm, and it's 20 degrees outside, something's going to fall apart in there somewhere. So if we can get all of those things in harmony with each other, I want it to warm up in here. Oh, the window's open. I should close the window. Now let's turn the heat on. Oh, look, it's warm now. That kind of thing. The subconscious mind works the same way. And I talk about it in the book. I give some practical, um, hands-on, applicable stuff that you can read the book and not even be finished with the book, set the book down and start writing some stuff down, and you've taken steps towards planting whatever seed you want in the garden of your mind.
Man, I am so glad I asked you that question. And if anybody's listening to that, that
What the
explanation,
question was.
that that exclamation was life changing. I mean, that's $1 million answer right there.
Thank
That's powerful, dude. I just want to
you. Okay,
go.
so we're done.
Yeah, we're done. That was perfect. Um, so, and you did write about that in Superhuman You, and I think that's one of the reasons I love that book so much. I actually bought it for my training studio so that our members could have it. It's just it's a powerful book.
Thank you.
Um, so where can people learn about Superhuman You?
Okay.
Is it still on Amazon?
The book is available on Amazon and it's also available on lulu.com, but don't go buy it because I recently put together a website called superhumanyobook.com where I give it away. You go there, and I feel so strongly about this stuff, and I'm so called to talk to people about it that I realized if there's a barrier to getting my book based on someone not being able to go on Amazon and buy it, I want to give it to them anyway because I think that the information in it, I truly believe that the information, and I didn't come up with any of it. I collected it all. I don't want to sound like I'm the wise old man sitting on the mountain. I'm not. I'm still climbing the mountain, but I think the information is so valuable that I want everyone to have it. And so I'm giving it away. All I'm asking that people do is pay for shipping and handling. So if you go to superhumanyobook.com, I'll send you a copy of it for free. All you have to do is pay shipping and handling.
All
Well,
right.
and I believe in it so much that if you get the book and you think the book sucks, you have to actually read it. And I'm if it comes to this, you think the book sucks and you don't want it anymore, I'll let you keep it and I'll refund your shipping money. I feel that strongly about it. There's no risk in it. I just want people to learn this stuff, and I want to create a legacy for myself that extends past physical culture stuff or kettlebell stuff or strength related stuff. I want to be able to have an impact on the lives of people who have zero interest in working out or exercise. I mean, I would hope that through association with information that I'm putting together and offering to people that they would develop an interest in moving their bodies and being healthy and strong. But I know some people won't ever, and that's okay. That's their choice. I still want to be able to help them improve other areas of their life, like relationships or finances or whatever. Um, and the approach that I use in the book is I believe that we all have latent superhuman abilities. And it's not like the things that you and I read about in comic books when we were a kid all the way up to now. You're not going to read this book and be able to shoot lasers out of your eyes or fly or anything like that. But if we look within the actual natural laws of the reality that we live in, all of us have superhuman abilities that may not be superhuman yet because all of us have unique abilities. And I define superhuman power by taking the three parts of that label and breaking it down. Human. Let's just analyze these words for a moment. Human is you and me. It's the experience that we have, and I don't have to define that for anybody because you already know. Super from the Latin root means over, above, or beyond, exhibiting the characteristics of its type to an extreme or excessive degree. So when you do something like a crawl for a quarter mile, was it a quarter mile or a mile? What was that big crawl that you did? It was a mile, right?
It was a mile.
Yeah. So when you just plop down and crawl, leopard crawl, was it leopard crawl or Spider Man?
Uh, Spider.
Okay. So when you plop down and Spider-Man crawl for a mile, that's a feat that I don't know anyone else personally that's done that. I mean, there probably are people or there may be people, but that's a superhuman feat of both strength and endurance and also mobility and a test of will, right? I mean, so, and how did you warm up for it? I walked over to the track, right? I love that story. So if you do something like that, or if someone like our mutual friend John Brookfield pulls a truck for a mile, or Dennis Rogers bends a wrench, those are expressions of superhuman strength. That is exhibiting characteristics of its type of strength to an extreme or excessive degree. That's what superhuman strength means, right? But then we get to the word power, and power comes from a Latin root potere, which is the same root word as potential. So our power and our potential come from the same place, even in the language that we use. And power means, or potere means the ability or capacity to do something. So we all have the ability or capacity to do something. We're all human. And if we exercise our mind and our abilities in the right way, we can exhibit these power, this ability to do something to an extreme or excessive degree. Maybe you want to be a superhuman real estate agent and sell millions of dollars of homes to people and bring happiness and joy to them. That might be your superpower. The way that I look at it is whatever it is that is your superhuman power will be something that allows you to fully express who you are fully, right? Like I see you do when you teach original strength. You'd be doing that same stuff even if there wasn't a class there, right? It's just that's a part of who you are. It allows you to live a full, happy, and productive life. So you're able to enhance your experience outside of just being able to express yourself. You're having a good life on top of that. And then it also makes the world a better place in some capacity. So when you teach original strength, the people who come to you leave better than they were when they got there in whatever area that they hope to, right?
Yes.
So that's a superhuman power to me. It's who you are. It allows you to live a full and happy life yourself, and it allows you to make the world a better place. That's using your superpowers for good. And using your superpowers for evil is anything other than that. So if you've got some superhuman ability and you're just locked off into your basement and you never share it with anybody, or you never capitalize on it, or you never fully develop it, or you never fully embrace it, then I believe you're committing an act of evil in the.
Well, I would call that a tragedy. That would be a
Yes.
tragedy.
Do you know the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise? No, sorry, different.
I believe I have heard of that.
Not a story a Jedi would tell you. Anyway, so coming back around, that's the purpose in what I'm doing with writing this book is I want people to understand that we all have abilities that can be developed to an extreme or excessive degree that will enhance our lives, enhance the lives of others, and that's superhuman power to me.
I think that's why I love the book so much because when I first, well, one, your cover spoke to me because you had a guy ripping. It's like Superman
Yeah,
opening
breaking
up his
chains.
shirt, breaking chains.
And I don't know if this will show up on the video or not because
It does.
for the people that are watching, like right now, I'm looking. You're real big, and I'm tiny enough in the corner. Is it going to be like a split screen when it gets published?
I will actually. It's gonna be split screen, but I can make it one screen where that's beautiful. It looks
Okay.
beautiful here. So
So there's the guy breaking the chain, and then on the back of it, there's another guy breaking a chain. That's me breaking a chain with chest expansion. So that's why I chose this cover, and that's what I love about that particular feat. Is we've all seen that iconic Superman drawing where he's.
yeah,
Mhm. I'm like, that's what's up. So anyway, I interrupted you. You were talking about the
No, no.
cover.
So the cover, you can't judge a book by its cover. That cover spoke to me,
Hmm.
and so, and just knowing you, I knew I was going to love the book, but the
Thank you.
cover spoke to me, and when I got the book, what I was expecting was to learn how to do superhuman feats of strength. But what I got was so much greater than that because what I got everything you were just talking about, like how to really express yourself to your optimal potential the way you were designed
Hmm.
to live the superhuman life. And it may be, you know, being the best neighbor your neighborhood's ever had. That may be your
Sure.
superhuman thing. But if you can express yourself the way you want to, the way that you're designed to me that is being living out your superhuman life. And your book
I
just
just
so
wrote that down. Living a superhuman life. I'm going to totally use that.
that's man, that's what your book's about. I mean, it's so that was the diamond for me because what I was expecting was one thing, which I knew was going to be great, but I got so much more than I was expecting. Especially in this journey in my life, where I believe that we are here for some really miraculous and amazing
Mhm.
things, and not just to live a ho hum, boring, nobody knows anything about your life. And anyway, so I really well done on your book because I
Appreciate
think
that.
the message that you're giving is not only a message of hope, but it is a message of power.
Hmm.
Um, and if we can all realize the power that we have inside of us, man, the sky is the limit, and we truly are. We'll have a limitless life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. It's funny. Lots of people that I know through my tenure in the fitness world have said something very similar to what you just said. I was expecting to learn how to do superhuman feats of strength, but actually, what I deliver in the book, I believe, is the lessons and the process that learning to do feats of strength taught me, and how to extract that from the physical expression of strength and apply it to anything. Because I think that our culture supports um, a mentality of disagreeing over differences. And I think that is a fundamental thing that shows up in all of us. Just spend 45 seconds on social media, you'll find two people arguing about the same point, because they see it from different perspectives or whatever. And I think that there's something to our human existence where, from a very early age, we're conditioned to argue over differences. The flip side of that means that if we can argue over differences within any given subject, then there must be common ground in that same subject too. So I decided to look at it from a 180 standpoint. Okay, there's multiple differences in any given subject that people can argue over. What are the common things that all of those people agree on, right? So, like for example, let's use exercise for an example. You take a yoga practitioner, you take a CrossFitter, you take an original strength person, and you take a bodybuilder. They're all going to argue over the approach. And the approach is defined by the end result for each of those examples, right? But what no one will say is, nope, exercise is crap. None of us are. I'm not supporting that at all. All of them are saying you have to move your body to achieve a result. Now, whatever that result is can be differently. So the common ground there is moving the body, right?
Right.
From a mental aspect, there is no doubt no one with any sense of logic can argue that whatever we think about tends to be what we experience in our life. The vast majority of people, in my experience, think that what happens creates their thoughts. But if we look at it, we strip it down, our thoughts create what happens to us.
And
It
that's
truly,
the
truly does.
matrix.
I mean, like, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We're all connected. We're all plugged in. We're all really just expressions of one. Because at the very beginning, there's one, and whether you look at that from a religious standpoint, regardless of what your religion is, if you trace it back far enough, there was one, and then whatever that one was expressed itself into many. If you look at it from a completely atheistic standpoint, in the beginning there was nothing, and then it exploded. Right? That's the Big Bang. So everybody says the same thing, but we get caught up in arguing over the differences. What are the similarities? What are the exact same principles that apply? Because that is the truth. If you can argue about it, it may or may not be true. But can't, if you can take two people with opposing viewpoints and put them in and find the thing that within a given subject they absolutely agree on, we can call that truth.
And this won't make any sense, but I got to verbalize it out loud so I can play this later. So I
Sure.
think if you can brace against it
Hmm.
and get traction in the ground and push against it,
Hmm.
it's not true. But if you get swept away in the flow of it, it could be true. I don't know. I'm trying to,
I'll
as you,
I'll have to marinate on that one.
I know I got to marinate on it too,
That's a
but
good
like
state.
I think our differences create traction for us to try to get a foothold and defend. And
Mhm.
anyway, like you've said so much that now I'm thinking, man, I just got to have you back for a whole other conversation. Uh,
Okay. Just let me know when.
let's say so. All that aside, Superhuman You
Hmm.
is your book. And it is a fantastic book for anyone wanting to realize their full potential, not just in feats of strength, but just in living their life to its utmost design and capacity. Um, and it is available for free at superhumanu.com. Is that
Superhumanyoubbook.com.
superhumanyobook.com? And I'll put that in the notes also of the podcast. Um, is there anything else that you got coming up in the works that you're working on?
This year is the year that I'm going to take the information that's in Superhuman You, because it's not all there is. It's the just like if I go by Habitual Strength or any of the other books that you've written and read it, the the overarching principle is in there of what original strength is, but all of original strength is not in there.
Right.
And to really get a feel for it, I'm going to need to either go find a coach or attend a workshop or communicate online. Well, that's finding a coach. I need to either get in-person coaching, online coaching, attend a workshop, something like that. I need to bring my individuality in front of someone who knows the information, right? And so this year is the year that I'm going to take the information that's in Superhuman You and expand that into an actual coaching program. I'm going to start later this year working with people, probably in small groups to kind of beta test it. Um, I haven't fleshed all that out yet, but I want to take a group of people through it, create a probably a 6 week long online coaching program that's centered around this superhuman goal achievement, and then continue to develop that into something that I'll make as an offering to people too. So, and the way to find out about that is to go get the book for free, and then you'll be on my email list, and I'll be able to communicate that with you.
Awesome, dude. That's really fantastic.
Thank you.
And good to know. Hey, listen, dude, thank you so much. This
Thanks for
was
having me.
this was amazing. Again, it's just like the book. I got way more than I was expecting. So, and I'm selfish, but I like to learn. But
That's
man,
good.
David, you're a master teacher, man. I
Thank you very
just
much. I appreciate that.
and I really love your willingness just to share.
Hmm.
And with the passion that you do it with. It's just it's refreshing. So
Thank you.
guys, this is the Iron Tamer, Mr. David Whitley. Please check out his book, superhumanyobook.com.
Hmm.
And he's got a wealth of other resources out there. We'll put the links to his Tearing a Deck of Cards if you want to learn how to do that,
How to
and
rip cards.com.
how to rip a deck of cards.com, and how not to put a nail through your hand.com. That's probably is that a link?
That's not a link for me. I am playing with the idea of I've already bought the domain howtodriveanailwithoutahammer.com, but there's nothing there. It's not live, but I've got it so that when the time comes for me to make that course, it'll be available too. That'll all be part of oldtimestrongmanuniversity.com at some point.
That is awesome. One question before you go, and
Yes,
one last one, I promise. Crunchy peanut butter or creamy peanut butter?
creamy all day.
Creamy all day. All right, there's your answer. David, thanks so much. Guys,
Thank
we'll
you.
see you next time. We hope you've enjoyed this edition of the Original Strength Podcast. If you made it this far, thank you so much.